Right. Hello.
Hello.
We're outside. It's a sunny day.
It's very mellow.
Not rained for 4.5 years.
I might just go to sleep and not talk. Is that allowed?
Hay fever is at an all-time national high.
It is. Do you know that chickens snore? Your chickens as well?
My chickens are
yeah,
snoring,
so Lewis's chickens have come to live at my house, and when I go to put them to bed at night, one of the silky puffs doesn't know how to go to bed, so she sits at the top step outside. She obviously gets a little bit too hot or something, and she sits there snoring, and I have to try and shuffle her in without chopping her head off with the thing. So can I just, if I just like go to sleep and just snore like a chicken, just very quietly in the corner?
Yeah.
And you can just talk. Is that
just
all right?
talk. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Perfect.
Great. Are you hay fever then? Are you bunged up?
My nose has been blocked up. It feels like for about 3 weeks, and I've now just accepted it. I don't remember what it was like to have 2 functioning nostrils.
That's the thing about the that makes the winter seem like a little bit good then, doesn't it? So rather than going, it's summer, forest cool in the summer is so great, you can go, actually, nah, bring on the winter. It's fine.
Yeah.
I don't have brain fog and I can breathe.
Yeah. It's just dripping. In the winter it drips, in the summer it bungs.
Oh, yeah.
But obviously,
we don't get colds.
We don't get ill because
live
we're
outside now.
Yeah, and we're one with nature and everything.
Yeah.
We rub all our cuts with holly berries, and that makes us well.
We definitely don't do
that. Right. So it's nearly the end of the academic year.
Yeah.
And it was making me think, because we're sort of planning a few things for children that are leaving. And also I was listening to a different podcast, listening to the Adam Buxton podcast. We had Charlotte Church on, and she was talking about a lack of rites of passage and how that is damaging not damaging, but lacking, and that children need that, and it helps you close bookend, mentally kind of go, that period of my life is done. And so I thought we'd just talk about rites of passage.
Did she have any, because I have yet to listen to that episode, did she have any examples of...
Well, her example was quite specific to her because she's making that democratic school, which is all going to be natural built. And she was going to say that when the kids arrive, their first project is to build part of the school, whatever the school needs, so that the school is constantly evolving, and it's never going to be that thing of like, we haven't got room for an IT space, or actually there's no room for a home ec lab, because each year they're going, right, well, what's this year group going to build? And when they leave, they smash a bit of it down or knock a bit of it down, so that it's like that's a part of you that was in the school and you helped build it, and then it's gone when you're gone, and I guess you could take it with you. Or
does she talk about like what would happen if a kid didn't want to do that?
No, not really.
I don't think I'd want to smash something that I've built.
Well, I think her idea is more that it's democratic, not child-led.
Right.
So I guess there would be some sort of consensus vote on, which bit do we want to break?
Right.
They would vote, and then the outcome would be, right, even the people that didn't vote for it, this is now what's happening.
It also seems very wasteful. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of...
Oh, I think it's very cyclical. I don't think it's wasteful. I think it's...
I guess if it's all natural materials, then you're breaking it to use it again, rather than that's busted now, it goes in the bin or on the fire.
I think it's a cracking example of process, not product.
Yeah.
And in having ownership, and in, that sense of being while you're at the school. And it probably immediately would connect you to the rest of the school populace, because it's not going to be like they built their classroom. You're building something for the school. So everyone using, if you're, say, in year 7 and you start building it, the year 10s that use that room will be like, you guys built that. Oh, well done. I like you, or we didn't get to do that because a few years ago we had to make the thing. And I don't know. I feel like it would tie people together, and maybe that's one to look up and follow as a journey.
Yes.
I don't know how far she is with that project, but I was thinking about, so when I think rites of passage, the thing that comes into my head first of all is the really cack, really I'm sorry to international people, really American graduations that are slowly coming over here.
Yeah, well, I was talking about this last night with my friend. Proms.
My God.
Proms.
Proms are one thing, but they're like, let's do proms in a minute, because the one that I'm going to just dig into this now is the like, I saw graduations from primary school where all the children wear genuine robes and mortarboards to go up an assembly, and it's still the school hall, and they get a little certificate that says you've done 6 years at such and such a primary school. And I feel like a Daily Mail reader now, because I'm just going on like the most sensational version of what I've seen and extrapolating it and going, this must be the way. I have seen graduations for like leaving Key Stage 1.
What?
Yeah, for like, any thing, and I don't get it.
Well,
I don't think that's an appropriate rite of passage, because I don't think it
doesn't mean anything to them, because they have most children would have no concept of.
And
you would hope they would have no concept of Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2, but actually a lot of them do.
Yeah.
And some parents said to me recently, when their child was moving from reception to year 1, they turned round and said to their parent, "Oh yeah, that's it now. Then no more playing."
That was early.
I
was with you. It was early years into Key Stage 1. And he said...
Oh, was it Tracy? Was it last week? Was it on last week's podcast? It might have been.
I don't think it was on the podcast. I think she said it afterwards.
It was a parent. Okay.
But, just came home and said... Oh, no, it wasn't. It was at the Somerset Play Forum.
Was it?
That's where we heard it. It was Alison.
Oh, okay.
It was Alison asked a member of the audience, and they said their son had come home, put his bag down and said, "That's it, mummy, no more playing."
Yeah.
Which is, I think, but I was just saying, doing graduations like that, they devalue then, because it's then not a like. So we do have graduations in the United Kingdom for, like, I'm going to, in quotes, use legitimate ones for universities with proper mortarboards, with gowns that have certain things, and you get the puffy hat if you do a master's and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But if you've done one for if you've done one when you left Key Stage 1, and then when you left Key Stage 2, and then you had 3 when you're at secondary school, and you had one for doing your first poo or something, like, do you, it loses something, doesn't it? It devalues those rites of passage as we apply them to everything, because then they become meaningless.
And also you've got to think why, like, so we've talked about end of termy things that we've done here, and I think I always question, but who am I doing this for? Yeah. Am I actually doing this because I know the kids need it, want it, will enjoy it, will look back on it and remember it? Or am I doing it for me because I have a need to do that? Or am I doing it for, like, parent theatre?
Societal expectation.
Yeah, we should be doing that, like, And actually, it's a bit like so my youngest daughter is about to go to school, and so we've got 2 more, what she calls Mummy and Frida days, 2 Thursdays of no school, no work, just me and her. And so I feel this pressure to, like, make those days, like, super, super good. There's only 2 left, so, like, make them really super, super special. So this week I was like, Frida, what do you want to do tomorrow? Because we could stay home and play, or we could, like, go somewhere. We could go to Exeter and go to the museum and, like, do, I feel like, I've got to make these memorable. Yeah. But she goes, no, I'd really like to just stay home and play with you. And that's what we did. But somehow in my adult brain, I'm like, okay, well, there needs to be something more
some
special.
Ceremony.
So that's what I always sort of question about doing stuff here for kids that have been for a long time and are moving on, and especially for kindergarten if they're here all day. So I kind of keep thinking, well, it would be really nice to do something special, but in another way, what do they love? They love being here and being with their friends and having that play that they won't have anymore with those people in that place. So if what you're planning is taking that away from them, then that's really unfair. So it's kind of finding a balance, I think, between something that everybody does enjoy. I think you as a leader, you're a valid participant. So if you have that need in you to go, I really want to mark this.
I need to say goodbye to you.
Yes, exactly.
But then, so I think there's 2 things that I would say to that. And one is that, you do want some sort of signal that things are coming to an end, or not coming to an end. That there is
moving on,
a beat, because otherwise, I think you run the risk of just doing absolutely nothing, because that's what they love. Then what you'll get is a massive shock next week when they go, oh, so we're going to forest school today, and they go, no, forest school's done.
Yeah.
And you go, what? But I didn't get to. But I didn't get to. And then
I think I meant in terms of like, do you want to take a long afternoon doing something
Yeah,
different?
something
Or do you
that's
want
so alien to what they do.
And very
You
long
want to-
and, it takes away too much.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just going to interrupt to explain that I am munching at the moment a little...
Breakfast bag.
A breakfast bag. We did some communal cooking this morning and, oh my gosh, it is delicious. And the recipe is in our cookbook. Ding!
That was...
Seamless.
It wasn't, because you said, I'm going to stop the conversation.
But I want to explain why I might sound like I'm munching, because I'm munching.
Oh, right. I think people are used to that. Yeah, I think finding a rite of passage does need to be appropriate to the setting, and I think that's what maybe sits uncomfortably when you see American graduation style theatre put onto primary school children, rather than like, what do we do in British primary schools? We do shit nativities. We should do like a shit nativity at the end, because that's what we do as a nation, is children in ethnically inappropriate tea towels on their heads, claiming to be Arabic people. That's what we do as a country. And so we should celebrate that and do like a shit nativity at the end. But so finding something that's like, I think there's lots of people that see rites of passage either on Pinterest or Facebook and immediately try and copy them without thinking, does this work for us? So remember the one that went round the internet for a while was, did you see the teacher who had, originally it was a male teacher, and he had a different handshake for each member of his class.
Yes, I saw that.
And he got mildly famous. And then, let's talk about cultural appropriation then, because then a young white female teacher did it, and her video went much more viral, and it was there was a real campaign of people going, actually this guy did it 3 months earlier, and it was almost all the same handshakes, and it was almost all the same, but anyway, it would be inappropriate of us for many reasons to go, we're going to do forest school handshakes, bam, 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 because that's not us. We're, so finding something that is a genuine expression of kind of reflection. I actually found it really difficult to. So we wrote conveniently one of the coincidentally one of the children who is leaving our home ed group. It was also his birthday this week, so we kind of tied it all in, didn't we? And said, look, we'll put stuff in his birthday card. And I had to take 3 or 4 runs at that card, because mentally I was going, right, I'm going to put the... I can't summarise a relationship into words, especially with that imbalance of how reading works and how, it's such a big thing to try and put on.
And I think in those moments, that's why we try and work things so that it never has to be a complete goodbye. So we've got our family sessions so that you hope that they will come back to those and that you will carry on that relationship, and there's no reason why it actually has to end. No. They can still come, and there's a session for every age group for that reason. And some of the parents were saying that today, saying that they were glad that the family sessions for next year are in the calendar now, because they would feel less sad about leaving, because they know when they're coming back. They've got like, okay, well, it's going to be a couple of months, but we are coming back on that day, and they can tell the kids that. And then it makes it easier to say goodbye from our perspective as well, because it's like, it's actually not goodbye.
Well, because,
it'll be different, but we'll still see you.
Yeah, and I do think there's value. Okay, here you go. I'm going to say a real big quote now.
Right.
I think there is value in artifacts. So I think possibly not having a like a certificate, because I think a certificate is meaningless. But I do think there's value in finding something small and something that is genuinely relatable to your setting, and gifting that at the end of a beat of a certain sequence. Because I have a box of stuff from when I was a kid, and it's like a summary. It's like that thing in Harry Potter where you can look back through the memories. You know, it's a ticket to Shakespeare or something, but looking at it and just holding it for a minute, and I can, because we went to the Globe when I was, like, it must have been 8 or 9, but I can remember what it was like, and I can remember the wood, and I can do all that stuff that I wouldn't be able to do necessarily if when I left I was given a piece of paper that said, "Congratulations on going to the Globe," because it wasn't part of the experience. I was holding the ticket, then they gave someone the ticket, then they ripped it, then I went in and I held it still, you know, and it's got the name of the play, and so I can remember bits of that, and that's so much more meaningful. And that's where I think taking a piece of the classroom in this Charlotte Church thing does have this huge thing of, like, that's a tactile sense memory that I can take with me, that, like, you know, you know, how many pieces of paper would you want to feel valuable at the end? Because you're only going to, the memory of, like, congratulations on your GCSE food science, that certificate wasn't with you when you were cooking. It wasn't with you when you did the exam. It wasn't with you when it was something that you got 6 months later. I don't think certificates are the way to do it. I think, and sometimes you can be open, I think, with older children, about saying, like, well, what would you like? What would be meaningful to you from here?
Your chainsaw. What I really want is, I really want that really cool axe that I saw in the cabin. Can I have it? I can take it home, yes. But
I think I would. But if it was so again, it's picking the appropriate child, isn't it?
The wheelbarrow.
But also, but I would have to say, well, I would say, right.
What would you say?
If a child genuinely wanted the wheelbarrow, I would say you can't have the wheelbarrow, but you could probably have the wheel, and I'll find another wheel, or you can take one of the nuts out of it, and you can have one of the nuts.
Or we can make a wheelbarrow out of twigs
and
a wood
but
cookie.
Then that's different, because then that's not the thing that's been with them.
Okay.
And so if a kid was like, "Can I have your chainsaw?" It'd be like, you're not really connected to the chainsaw, are you?
Yeah.
Because it's I know, you know, you're being facetious, but yeah, finding that thing. And so, like, up to a certain age, I think you do have to take a bit of a plunge with artifacts and say, I reckon that'll be the thing that he wants to take with him, or you know, it could be, this idea has just come into my head, but I don't know why it hasn't come into my head earlier.
Go for it.
We should take apart a small part of that treehouse for him.
Yeah.
We should take something, or just lie and give him a bit of rope from the box and say, like, oh yeah, this was special rope. But you know,
he might be listening.
Oh,
we don't.
shit.
We don't mean it. No, we'll definitely do something.
Yeah, but that thing that would be perfectly appropriate for us to have gone. That was a really important thing to him, and I bet if I gave him a tactile thing, that'd stay with him for much longer than a picture, than something else. And I think that's a big part of Rites of Passage, is having something physical that you can bring back a tactile memory with, because your brain's better at that than it is. So I think that would be, because I personally, I didn't go to my university graduation.
Neither did I, and I was just literally thinking when you were describing the hats and multiples and stuff, I was trying to think, why did I don't know why I didn't go. It's really weird. I think it's because I didn't feel comfortable, like, inviting any of my family, because I thought that's really self-indulgent. Like, they've got stuff to do. They don't want to travel, like, it was in London, you know. They don't want to travel all the way to London to sit in a room of millions of people and pay
listen to 500 names.
Listen to 500 names, take a day out of their lives to do that. Yeah. So I don't feel comfortable. And, you know, I'm not going to go by myself. That would be weird. And everyone's working and whatnot. So I just didn't go. But then that meant that I didn't really have, you know, a rite of passage there.
No,
but I do have...
Did you do one with your teaching course? Because I had another one offered for my PGCE.
No.
That I didn't
I don't think anybody went to that.
No,
that
I
I
felt
know
less connected. I didn't go to either, but I
Yeah.
felt much less connected to my PGCE one because it was like, well, I was in a cohort of, I was in a cohort of 100 something people, but actually I knew 5 of them.
Yeah.
And give a shit, I'm teaching now.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't got time to take I haven't got the mental space to take a
Yeah.
day off and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And
Well, that shows you something about the design of that rite of passage as well, doesn't it? That it's not for everybody. That perhaps if it was a smaller event, just with the people that you didn't know, just with your little cohort and your tutors, that would have been really nice. I definitely would have gone to something that was just our course, just our tutors, some kind of short celebration that actually wasn't a show off to your family and friends.
Do a
look
performance.
What I've done.
Yeah.
Clappy clappy. It was actually more of a end of the chapter. We're saying goodbye. We're saying thank you to one another. That would have been really lovely.
So I think I've tapped into a theme of bad rites of passage.
Okay.
And that is what do you do while people sing happy birthday?
Mm-hmm.
That experience, everybody knows it. Happy birthday to you. Right, now you've run out of stuff to do. You stood there. What does your face do? What should I do with my hands? Shall I smile? Do I join in? Do I laugh? Right? That's an awful experience. It's a fucking long song as well. Right? It's really long. I think genuinely part of not going to my graduations was a fear that it would just be an enormous version of that. There's all this pressure, and actually how long can you stand there and be like, hey, I wasn't. I think if I had done a really hard degree, I'm going to be careful now. I think if I had done a really hard degree, and in my head I'm going to go a proper degree, like something science-based or something that had been a real challenge, I did music because I knew I could get a degree in music without trying very hard, and I knew for the rest of my life I wanted a degree. It just didn't matter. My parents kind of...
Music is important, Liz.
My parents kind of
really
impressed
important.
on me, like, you need a degree, right? You just need a degree. Doesn't matter what it's in.
Really?
So I took the path of least resistance, which was like, well, just do music then. That's still a degree. Everybody looks at it and goes, have you got a degree? Cool, he went to that university, right? Nobody did. So when I did the Rite of Passage, it felt or didn't do the Rite of Passage because it felt disproportional to be standing up next to people who had like not slept for 4 years because they're doing bioscience and had like killed themselves, and then me wandering up going, I played the double bass. Hello everybody, So I think that as well as there being an appropriate setting and theme for your rites of passage, there does need to be an appropriate, like when people say, oh, that was a disproportionate response. The rite of passage needs to be proportional to... And one of the tricky things about that, for forest school, I think, is... So now we're reaching the end of the term, and we have some children who are leaving us to go to school or to move on to other things, who have been with us since January. Right? Great relationship. And they're going off to school and they're genuinely like, oh, we're going to miss forest school. And you've got some children who have been coming for 2.5 years. They started as soon as they could, and now they're about to go to school. And trying to do one rite of passage for both those people, you've either got to find somewhere in the middle and go, this is a bit much for you that's been coming from January, but a bit little for you. Or you have a really honest conversation and go, actually, we're going to give them a different thing, or we're going to, that I think is very difficult.
It is.
And it's a bit like trying to pitch differentiation, where you just go, I've got such a massive range of kids here, I can't possibly pick one activity for them all.
I know, yeah.
Do you remember having any rites of passage that you thought were good? Outside, because I'm thinking broader than school, because some people consider their hen night or stag do part of a rite of passage, because it's part of the end of something and the start of something. Do you know what I mean? Those kind of adult things.
I do know what you mean.
I remember thinking that I was disappointed that there weren't more rites of passages when I got my first tattoo, because I was, let's say 18, and I wasn't 18, But I'd built it up in my head, you know, watched all these tattoo programs on TV and all this stuff, and I thought I was going to get like are you sure, mate? Let's just double check. You're happy for this? It's going to be on you forever. Didn't even check my ID.
Really?
Right, just went, yeah, I can do that, sit down.
Right.
There was no ceremony to it. And because of that, I then was like, oh, okay, this isn't a big thing. And now I'm basically covered. Because they're just going, oh, there's no ceremony to this.
Yeah,
just
casual,
just throw them all in. And
I wonder if you could, I'd be really interested to know about like ceremonies culturally around the world and what happens at different times. And I wonder whether you could fairly say that we are just a bit shit at doing ceremony in this country.
There's hand fastings traditionally in this country. We have
but now, I mean like if there have been things in the past, they've just died. And like it's something I often want to bring to Forest School. Like I really want to like mark times of the year, seasonal changes.
In bulk.
Yeah, and I always want to like kind of do some kind of ceremony thing, but it's really hard because you feel like you don't want to force people to do something. You are. You're kind of going, and everyone gets a little bit embarrassed with like, you know, including me. You know, I do too. It's like, why are we actually doing this? I was like, we're doing it because. But I love it. I find it really fascinating.
Yeah.
But doing it for like. That is the thing. Like, why do ceremonies exist? They exist because they exist. They exist because it's like a.
Well, sometimes they exist culturally because it's the end of a hard time of the year, or it's a part of an economy. I know lots of places where weddings are part of the like national economy because it moves wealth and goods from people to people, and that's how they secure a fair balance of people or social mobility or stuff like that. And also, ceremony used to be a way of, I'm not an expert in this by any stretch, but I would imagine a lot of ceremony was a way of currying favour. If you were wealthy, you can go, I'll put on a banquet, you know, or my daughter's getting married, everybody come, and then for the next 5 years I've got, don't you remember that meal at my daughter's wedding?
Yeah.
Do you fancy moving my truck for me? Or it's that, and also it's because in Britain we've had this class system structure of lots of power, then a bit of power, then a bit of power, and then plebs. The way of paying back from you've been paying me all year. Yeah. Here's your tax rebate. Yeah. It's a big party. Go and get shit faced.
This isn't a rite of passage, but it is a very weird festival. Do you know about the hot pennies in Honiton?
Please tell me about the hot pennies.
Oh my God. So in Honiton, which is in East Devon, I think it is near the end of August sometime, you get the signs like road closed, diversion, road closed, hot pennies festival on this date. And I was like, what the heckins is hot pennies? So I looked it up, right? Ancient festival where rich folk would sit in the upper stories of buildings like pubs, heat coins over a candle flame till they're really super hot, and throw them into the street to the poor people, and then watch them picking them up and burning their fingers.
Holy shit!
Yeah, and it still happens. They still do it, and it's hundreds of years old. And it started off as it is a mock the poor festival, like no doubt about it. That's what it is. But what it was that if I might get this bit wrong, but wealthy landowners or wealthy people to whom poor people would inevitably owe money,
right,
and not pay their tithes maybe or whatever because they were behind. If they were spotted in like the town, if you owed a debt and you were spotted in the town, you could be arrested, go to prison, the rest of it. But for this day a year, they waived that and said that everyone was just allowed into town, whether or not you were in debt or not. Right. And so all these people who were in debt, all the rich people who would be owed all the money would be like, ha ha, paupers, take up the hot pennies, you absolute... Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that cool? I mean, it's not cool, but it's mental that it still happens. They closed the whole road.
I was watching a very old episode of QI the other day, in a similar mock the poor thing, where there was apparently a Roman emperor who was quite the prankster, who, well, one thing was he used to let out, during dinner parties, tigers and bears just into the hall,
Yeah.
and just be like, ha ha ha, and not tell people that he had their claws and teeth ripped out. So people would like shit themselves, and then he'd be like, ha ha ha, it's still a big animal, but it's just not gonna. But he also used to go out and invite all the poor people to come and have a banquet at his villa, and then would bring out paintings of food.
What an asshole.
Yeah, what a prick.
Complete asshole.
I have to find out what Roman emperor it was. But we've sort of veered off of rites of passage.
What do you guys do? Let's open up a discussion and a debate.
I know, I think rites of passage is an interesting thing, because sometimes it's not ceremony. Because I think a lot of what we've talked about so far is like age related. It's going through the education system, and we do it year by year. But there are rites of passage, I would say, like getting your driver's license, that some people do at 25 and some people do at 17. And that is still a rite of passage. It's still socially a thing that we, I think, in this country, I think you assess people differently if they have or haven't been through that rite of passage.
Yeah.
And then there's another one in that where when you've been driving, if you haven't had a car accident yet, people will go, oh yeah, well it's a rite of passage having your first car accident, you know, and it's almost like you're going to be a shit driver until you've had at least a little crash.
Yeah.
I've heard doctors say that killing a patient is one of the rites of passage. It's just like,
or having a patient die on you.
Yeah, you just need to.
Yeah.
You need to get it, not get it over with, but that you are seen differently in society when you've been through that rite.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether that's the thing. Another thing that needs to, if we're thinking about these elements that make a good rite of passage, and we're saying one of them has, you know, it's tactile memory, and it has to be appropriate, and one of the other ones has to be that the group or the society views you differently on one side of it or on the other.
It's pigeons.
Pigeons trying to push a tree over.
Get a room, get a room.
Oh, is that what's happening?
Yeah.
I see.
Disgusting.
Ugh.
Just any old place. Who do they think they are?
To bring it slightly back, you know that thing of like, could we have something is there something in forest school or in outdoor education that you see people differently when they've been through that rite? Because scouting has, I would say, scouting and guiding has like a massive, they've almost overused it to the point where, I don't know, I've never been a scout, but I would say from the outside, it looks like there are so many badges and achievements that you can't possibly differentiate people and go, oh, they've got the whatever badge. So I guess scouting then brings me onto a weird thing where, because scouts quite often have to explain what their badges are. So we know a scout leader, and he did a year in a kilt. Not every day, but whenever he was scouting in that year, from whatever it was, June to June, had to wear a kilt at every scouting event. And I don't know what that badge looks like, but I would imagine he has to explain that badge to people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what I'm wondering is, does the rite of passage have to be recognisable to external people for it to be a valuable rite of passage?
No, I don't think so. I think it's self,
gratifying.
Yeah, or like it's not just for the world; it's for you.
Okay,
I think
okay.
so. I think it's I did this, and that is part of me.
So does that then explain why you and I didn't feel the need to go to graduation ceremonies? Because we were internally validated by knowing that we had done the thing.
Yeah,
and didn't need the external applause.
Yeah.
Let's get Alfie Cohen involved. Is rewards and punishments a way of saying that actually your learning was only valuable because we all clap at the end?
Yeah.
And the more we do that, the more then people go, well, actually, I'm not going to do it if I'm not going to get clapped at the end. So is ceremony detrimental to internal motivation?
Yeah, and I was just thinking about forest school and thinking about, you talk about it being appropriate, you know, the rite of passage. And if you think about like a degree, the rite of passage is you've graduated because you ticked all the boxes. You went to all the lectures, you did the exam if there was one, you submitted you submitted your coursework, you know. Whereas, and there's quite a, you know, open debate, isn't there, in the kind of forest school and outdoor learning community about transition through that outdoor learning process, a bit like scouting, like people going, oh, there's the wild passport that's been designed, or like, oh, you've achieved this challenge, you've used a bill hook to split wood, and because you've done that and I've seen you do that safely, now you can graduate to this. And there's all these kind of like little rites that some people like to do or don't like to do, and but with our setting we don't do any of those things. We've kind of tried little sprinklings of things, haven't we, in terms of like little challenges and stuff, but in that sense, having some kind of big ceremony for me in a way doesn't seem appropriate, because what it is that you have been in a place with a certain group of people for a certain amount of time. It's not like you have achieved X, Y, and Z. Yeah. All of that learning and achievement and experience is going to be completely different for each person, and not just for the children, for the adults as well. So really a kind of celebration of the end of it as a big group, and perhaps doing something that maybe involves a bit more food than normal, or a special, you know, something a bit more luxurious that you eat or drink, and having a really nice group dynamic in that last session, I think is important, because you are marking that you've all been together and you've all had an experience together, and then that's going to finish. But it's not really an achievement. It's not really like, yeah, you did this. Whoa.
Well, yeah, because I think
I feel proud of it. It's not.
If we,
it's so internal. How could you?
I wondered if you could argue. Let's do hypotheticals now. Could you argue that if you do any ceremony, that is, as you were saying, a tick box of you've used a bill hook, you've done or whatever, you're then pushing motivation in some way, because you might have children who had no interest in a bill hook, but socially need some gratification, and so go out of their way to do something they don't enjoy and use a bill hook. But hang on.
Sorry, finish.
Because you could argue then, I think, that you are no longer running a child-led session, because you are putting carrots in certain places. You're no longer following the interests of the child. Do you follow me hypothetically?
I do know what you mean, and that is such an ongoing blooming debate, isn't it? It's like both in the world and internally for us as practitioners, because you could play the advocate and be on the flip side and say, well, a child has never seen a bill hook. How do they know whether they're interested in it or not? Yes, you can use it.
You can use it, but you don't have to celebrate someone else using it. That's the difference I'm making.
Right.
So using it and saying like, oh yeah, James is using a bill hook. Yeah, okay, is very different to everybody stop. Let's all clap James using the bill hook.
Yeah.
That's a very different thing.
Yeah.
Then you've got ceremony, and I think then you're putting.
Well, I think that's why we because we talked about doing things with the Saturday morning group way back, didn't we?
Yeah, a long time.
About like little kind of challenges and little kind of just like marking occasions for here's a challenge.
You've done a fire that's 10 minutes long,
exactly.
Or you've.
And then we kind of knocked it on the head, I think, because we thought there will always be children who won't want to take part in those things, and that's absolutely fine. We were never going to, intending to force them to do it in any way. And they'll have their own shit going on. They'll be doing stuff that is equally valid and very valuable for them, and they won't get an applause, a certificate, a marking of having done that. And that seemed really like icky, but you're going, these are the things I'm going to celebrate.
I approve of these activities.
Exactly.
I was just wondering then, how many, so if we're saying that do you need to know it's a rite of passage for it to have value? So, all the children, no, so hear me out. So all the children will, I think, go through certain rites of passage in their experience of forest school, in that they will all, at some point, experience or hold a bug.
Yeah.
They don't know there's a rite of passage. Or they'll have something where they recognise a bird song for the first time.
Yeah.
That's a massive rite of passage. I'm observing it, and I, as an outside person, can say, oh, you've just gone through a rite of passage there. But they don't know that. So do you need to know that it's a rite of passage for it to be a rite of passage?
Sometimes they do, and yeah, you're absolutely right. And lots of and parents will tell you as well. Yeah. They will say, "Oh my goodness,
she told me the trees when we went home,"
or they've put their hand in mud and they've never done that before, or whatever. And sometimes the kids will come up. They will go, "Oh, I did it! I did it!" You just see on their face that for them, it was massive. It was a memorable day. And also people will come and say, "Oh, do you remember that thing that happened a year ago?" They really remember that. They told me the other day, and you're like, "Whoa, I had no idea that was the moment that was impressionable or important at the time." So yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Do all rites of passage have to be pleasurable or enjoyable?
No, definitely not. And isn't that a thing of different cultures? Well, yeah, I was going to say, different cultures around the world, lots of rites of passage traditionally are really hard, aren't they? There are hard
tests,
lots of sacrifice, lots of hard times.
Yeah, some things I think that are the hard ones or the unenjoyable ones, you only notice or realise that they were a rite of passage in retrospect. You have to be on the other side of it to look back and go, being bullied is a rite of passage. Or, some people say breaking a bone is a rite of passage. Or, those things are horrible when you're in them.
Yeah.
But they are... Do you think a rite of passage has to be character making? Influential on your character?
Yes, so I guess, or make you aware of a character trait that was always there but you weren't necessarily aware of, something within you that has come to the surface and you've gone, oh, okay, I'm that now.
As we've been talking, I think I've realised that in my head initially, rite of passage and ceremony were synonymous. And I think the longer we've been talking, the more I'm separating them in my head. As ceremony is one thing.
Yeah.
As ceremony, it's almost ceremony and recognition are in this one Venn diagram.
Yeah.
And in one, circle on the Venn diagram, and then there's rites of passage on the other, and there is an overlap of some of them, but there are some rites of passage that don't have ceremony, and there are some ceremonies that don't have. Oh, can there be a ceremony that doesn't have a rite of passage? Oh. Can you celebrate something?
Yeah, I think so. Things that are like seasonal, that happen all the time,
Okay, yeah.
Seasonal change that it's not like, oh, it's the first and last time it's ever going to happen. It's just like, oh, it's a cyclical thing. We're going to celebrate it. It's not.
So are rites of passages one-offs? You can't repeat them. You can't hear a bird song for the first. You can't recognise a bird song for the first time multiple times. You can't. Could you leave? I suppose you could leave a group several times.
Yeah.
Some people get divorced several times, or married lots of times.
Yep.
Well, my brain is cooked now.
Mine too.
That was some ruminating. You weren't sure you had anything to talk about.
No.
And I think you do have stuff to talk about.
I had more than I thought in my
to talk about with rites of passage.
Yeah.
So before we go, shameless plug time. We've put up our calendar for the next year. We're doing another cooking course, another outdoor learning course. We're doing a whittling course.
Storytelling,
yes.
drama and music. And that is the
that
first
one's coming
one.
up first
That's
in September.
the end of September.
So if you're anywhere near Devon...
And I love it. It's my favourite training day. It
is. We realised, I think, when we did the play forum, and we had to condense storytelling into an hour, and just almost
hard.
Both exploded with like, I know and this, and let me tell you about this thing, and let me.
We've got to do this.
Yeah, come on. So if you are near Devon, come for a whole day of storytelling and drama and music and how to do it, how to do stories with children and how to perform and it's not just for people that have done performance before like us. It's actually, I think, very beneficial for people that go, I would never do storytelling. I would never stand up in front of the group. If you
and
were
even just for parents as well, like it's not you don't have to be a forest school person to come.
I was talking to people earlier today about storying children along. Have I told you about this thing?
Yes.
So if you need your children to go on a long walk, there are cultures that story children along. So they tell stories so that children don't think about their tired legs. So if you've got children that get tired legs, it might be a good one to come to get some more stories and find some ways to keep your children walking. We've got lots of emails and lots of messages this week from lovely people saying how helpful this is. So I'm very glad to hear that this is helping people and helping people find forest school.
And there are people asking questions and making suggestions for future topics as well, which is really nice. So
and a couple of them are on the back burner, working on in the background.
We hear them. They will happen.
They are.
So if you want to get in touch, then you can email us at childrenoftheforest@outlook.com
or send us a message on Facebook or on Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.